Emmeline turned and smiled at her close friend, Ginger. The white apron around her pregnant belly was barely tied in a knot at the small of her back, and her ankles appeared swollen in her white sneakers. "How are you holding up, Mama? You need a break?" Ginger vigorously nodded. "I gotta pee again. Do you mind? Friend just sat a guy in my section. I'm afraid if I don't pee before I get over there, I'm gonna leave a puddle on the floor." "Go," Emmeline chuckled, gently pushing her in the direction of the bathroom. Tucking a russet curl over her ear that had come out of her ponytail, she glanced at Ginger's section. The breakfast crowd was in full throttle, the place packed. Pulling a pad of paper and a pencil out of her apron pocket, she approached the table in the middle of the boisterous crowd, ready to greet the man who sat alone. "Hey there, are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" Speaking a little louder than usual over the noise of people and country music, she tilted her head to try to make eye contact with the man. When he looked up, her heart free fell into her stomach. "Cappy?" It was instant recognition, the handsome face of Thomas Capshaw forever branded in her mind. His dark hair was neatly combed back from his masculine, chiseled face, and his full lips parted slightly as he stood and towered over her. His expression changed from furrowed brow to joyous recognition in a millisecond. His mouth turned up into a gigantic grin when he realized who she was. Emmeline Fisher. "Oh, my God! It is you!" Excitedly, she threw her pad and pencil onto the table and opened her arms wide, practically lunging at her childhood friend. Their hug was awkward, his body stiff and unyielding. When she pulled back, they gazed at each other, the sounds in the room nothing but white noise in her ears. Right away, she noticed his eyes. They were the same intoxicating blue eyes she had spent countless days and nights staring into as they navigated their childhood and teenage summers together. But they were different, too. The bright blue was gone, clouded over with a gray sadness, causing her heart to fill with concern. She realized she was still squeezing one of his hard biceps and immediately pulled back and apologized. "I'm sorry," she chuckled, embarrassed. Using her fingertips, she couldn't help it and lightly ran them down his forearm a second more, as if making sure he was real. Not sure how to overcome the uncomfortable moment, she deliberately clasped her hands in front of her apron. "I thought I might see you at your grandfather's funeral." "You went?" he interrupted, a look of anguish crossing his handsome features. Emmeline raised her eyebrows in astonishment. "Of course. He was very dear to me, to all of us around here. You know that." Briefly, Thomas hung his head, and she heard him sigh. When he looked back up, his lips were turned up in a tight smile. "Yes, he was." His voice was low and even-tempered. "I'm sorry I couldn't make it until now. It's been rough." Emmeline nodded and compassionately reached out to touch his arm again. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Cappy. I know you must miss him. He was a great man." Before he could reply, Ginger interrupted. "Hey there! Thanks, Em. I can take over now." Thomas and Emmeline continued to stare at each other, the tension evident between them. "Geez, is everything all right?" Ginger absent-mindedly started to rub her belly as she looked back and forth between the two of them. Emmeline startled out of her gaze and cleared her throat. Yes. Ginger, this here is an old friend of mine. You knew his grandfather, Lawrence Capshaw?" Her voice lilted at the end of the sentence, the name of his grandfather unrecoverable from her lips, letting the cat out of the bag. Immediately, she felt remorse, knowing that was the last thing Thomas would want to talk about with a complete stranger.